Okay, next up, we're going to actually model everything that we're going to set in the space. So referring back to our sort of inspiration image, right, something like this, really what we're going to begin with is creating some lights and creating sort of like a, you could either do like a platform or a podium or something, whatever way you want to represent your model, that's fine. Frequently, architectural models are just dropped on the ground on a tarp that kind of is hanging up on the wall and stretching onto the ground. So you could set it up however you wish. What I'll probably do is put a little, like platform at the bottom to set it on. So inside of my space, there are a couple things that I need to do. I guess what I'm going to do is say SS, and I'm going to call this one platform. And that is really as simple as just grabbing a rectangle of whatever size to begin with, and then you can extrude that into a platform that you can work with. Oops.
What was the size again? Sorry.
I didn't create a specific size. I just created one. Okay. That's just so I can start kind of creating a platform to put my building on.
How did you create that roof instantly?
Oh, yeah, sure. When it was like that?
Yeah.
Good. It's the cap command. So anytime you do a simple extrusion in Rhino and you forget to turn it on solid, or if you do what I did and you just do the extrusion via the gumball, it's not going to have a cap. You just type in cap and it closes it off. As long as it's a plane, I believe it has to be a planar extrusion, meaning like both sides of it are planar.
Did you have both sides one at a time?
Yes, yeah. And in fact, I think I want to test that theory. Let's do a triangle. And let's sort of tilt it a little bit. Okay, so that's not totally planar, but I'm going to copy this, or rather extrude it in the vertical direction, like that. Oh, whoops, I made it solid. Extrude. Solid, no. Direction, vertical, going up. Okay. And planar. Or not planar, sorry, cap. Yeah, it worked. Okay. So to work on triangles, it probably would not work on a square if the four corners were broken. Anyway, I don't need to explore that too much. I'm getting distracted. So the good thing about this is like whatever size and scale you set your model to is you can just grab these edges and start yanking them to the size that you actually need it. Unlike in the actual studio environment where you have to remodel everything. Okay. So that's going to be my platform. I can begin to work with this and sort of set my scene and lighting all around that. Just make sure that it's on the proper layer. I think I actually modeled this on the room layer instead. So let me make this a different color. Go with brown. So it's not on the right layer. Change object layer. Okay. So that's my platform. The other thing I'm going to need are lights. Okay, so I suggest you actually begin with a light that is similar in size and scale to what you see in a studio environment. So you can go back to your, scene that you're trying to emulate, and you can create a set of lights that are indicative of that environment. So this one, I'm not going to do like the circular lights or anything like that. I'm just going to do square lights, but I am going to position 3 of them, and they're going to be approximately that size in comparison to this room. So in order to do that, I'm actually just going to take a surface off of this thing, and I'm going to copy this up. You guys need to see how I did that again, or no? Okay. So in case you missed it, once you select a surface, if you want to make a copy of that surface, just hold Alt and use the gumball. It'll make a copy. Okay. So this thing really doesn't need much adjustment. I can sort of just eyeball it and sort of yank and pull and make this approximately the size in comparison to what would have been a little bench in that space. Okay, something like that will work. But I'm going to need some lighting for it, right? So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this LT, and I'm going to call this, I'll just call it LT1 for like light 1. And I'm going to pick, I guess I'll do like a couple of different green colors. I'll just pick the green spectrum for my lights. I'll do this one in dark green. Change object layer. And the key here with these is to just make 3 of them. So you're going to have an LT1, an LT2, and an LT3. And they're going to be 3 separate lights, and it's going to be hopefully what we use to create that sort of, you know, combination of warm and cool lights in the space. So let's create those real fast. LT2, LT3, sea green, and aquamarine. Okay, and then just put them on each of their layers. There. Any questions about that so far? Make sure you know which way those surfaces are facing too. You want them to be facing the model, so when you put on your surface direction thing, you can see that they're actually facing away from the model. So you can flip those very easily with football. Now they're sort of at least facing into the space. And I'm just going to go through the quick process of moving them approximately to the locations that I would imagine they need to be. So this one's going to sort of rotate like that. I'm going to drop it down a little bit, pull it back. And I'm going to tilt it ever so slightly into the model. Okay, this one I'm going to do the same. I'm going to sort of pull it back this way, put it down, tilt it ever so slightly in, rotate it a little bit that way. Okay, and then this one I'm actually going to rotate almost completely to the side. Pull it a little bit down, a little bit further down than the others, and try to put it a little offset toward the back of the space. Okay, so the reason being, like, I'm going to have 2 main lights that are going to focus on my model, and then I'm going to have a bounce light that's going to illuminate the background so it doesn't get too much shadow, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. Okay. So after you're done kind of putting them all around the space a little bit, you could double check that they're all facing in. And what the heck? They flipped. That's weird. I'll flip them again. Okay. All right, cool. What questions do you have? Really? What?
Does it matter how high we put them?
How high in the space?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, the illumination's going to come out sort of like in a bulbous shape. So, I mean, you want them. It depends where you want the light. Like your bounce light, you don't have to have facing it directly, but you probably want to have your accent lights more directly facing it.
Which ones did you tilt?
Just the 2 leading in here.
Okay.
That one is pretty much still vertical.
Okay.
And I might actually even have to move that one further back, but for now it's okay. Any questions? All right, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to sort of get caught up on that. I'll help any of you out that are having any bits of issues, and then we'll get going with a little bit more.